Hi, everyone. It's Steve Politi from NJ Advanced Media. This week's Rutgers Rant is brought to you by the New Brunswick Development Corporation. A big thank you to our sponsor and to all of our listeners for the continued support. Now let's get to the show.
From NJ.com and the Star Ledger, welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights, with your hosts Steve Politi and Rutgers insiders Brian Fonseca and Pat Lenny. Let's start shopping.
All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Rant. Fresh off our bye week, refreshed. I feel like fresh as the daisy here, fellas. I don't know about you. Watched a lot of college football this weekend. Watched some really good games. It's amazing how a little offense will make your college football game exciting. Scarlet Knights rested as well. Listening to Greg Schiano, it seems like they're healthy. They're feeling better. The players got haircuts. I guess what happened? Greg could not get a haircut. Is that correct, Fonseca? What?
Yep. Greg said he did not have time to have a haircut. It was a bit of a busy week. I also did not get a haircut during the bye week. I'm due one, but again, all we do is grind here at NJM. We chop 60-minute chops, all that good stuff. Except
no 60-minute chopping of your hair, I guess is the problem.
That's a fair point. That's the one 60-minute chop I missed this week.
That's bad. But how about you? How about you, Lanny? How's the baby? How was your bye week?
You know, sometimes you just need to take a week off. I think last week I said she was a shit monster. Now I took a week off. I can change my perspective. She's an angel.
She's an angel now. Isn't that lovely? Oh, parenting.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah, just you wait. All right, let's talk some Rutgers football. Bye week. I got Indiana this coming up now. We're back to where we always are with Rutgers. The Indiana game, if they don't beat Indiana in any season, it's not going to be a good football season. I think we can establish that. And this season, it's a little bit more desperate than usual because I think you look at this game, if they don't beat Indiana, you're like, all right, well, who are they going to beat? This is by far the best chance remaining for Rutgers to win a game. Week off, homecoming, bad opponent. I mean, what sense do you get down there, Fonseca? Is there optimism about this one? I mean, what's the vibe in Piscataway?
I can only infer from Schiano's mood today. He seemed to be upbeat more than usual. He got good news, obviously, with Gavin Wimsatt is apparently going to be available. He's recovered from his injury, which is really good for Rutgers, obviously, to have more options as possible. Noah Vedral's hand is also apparently getting stronger by the day. It seems like they'll be closer to full strength than they have been in a while. First time all three quarterbacks will be available, which is good, I would say. The question is which of them will play, how much of them will play, how Nunzio Campanile will manage the offense, the quarterback rotation. Is it there to stay? Greg Schiano was non-committal on that. I think a lot of people will not like that. I think people want to see, and myself included, just a steady guy, but it will be interesting to see. But I would, to answer your question, I think they should be optimistic because if they're not optimistic about beating Indiana, I don't know who they're going to be optimistic about beating.
I thought he was pretty committal, actually, listening to the press conference when we develop talent, we play production. We have an obligation to play the players who give Rutgers the best chance to win. That certainly does not sound like we're going to throw Gavin Wimsatt out there and get ready for 2023. I mean, that's, this is obviously, if Noah Vedral's healthy, this is his game again. I have based on the answer, I think we're going to see a heavy dose of Noah Vedral, right?
That's what you think, Steve. I know that's what you thought last week as well, but maybe that was, if you flip it around and say, we love Wimsatt so much that he's going to be the guy.
Well,
it's just
playing mind games with me again here, aren't you?
To go back to the optimism, I would say to have to play whoever you want at quarterback, you have to feel optimistic about.
Right. Yes. Precisely. Something poor Sean Gleason never had. Rest in peace. Nunzio, however, Nunzio Campanile gets that. I mean, we've talked about it a lot last week. He's had a full week to rejigger this offense. What is the reasonable thing we can expect from this, Brian? I mean, is there something that can come out of this in a week that would be a promising sign for this team?
You're not going to change much of the personnel, right? The offensive line is what it is. The running backs, yes, are what they are. The quarterbacks, even when they're closer to health, again, they are what they are. They're not. It's not Hendon Hooker. It's not Bryce Young. You're not going to see a shootout. You'd like to see some creativity in play calling, not necessarily 2020 Sean Gleason levels, but something different, some different routes, trying to get different positions involved. I wrote about the tight ends this morning. I mentioned them. I like to see them produce a little bit more, although I'm not sure if the talent is exactly there for it to work, but something different has to happen. I think the bar is set on the ground, maybe below it. I really think he can surpass that. The way Greg Schiano talked about Indiana's defense today in his 4-minute answer about what he sees in Indiana makes me worry that maybe they're not going to score any points. But I just like to see something. And I don't know what exactly, but something you could point to, be like, all right, this is progress.
I'll tell you what it is for me. And I've given this thought, like if he can give me one thing this week, and I know you're going to think I'm going to say 47 carries for Sam Brown. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say the one thing I want to see is I want to see getting the ball in the hands of his playmakers in space. This is something this team does not do well. Again, watching, and I know it's Alabama, it's Tennessee, it's USC, it's Utah, but watching these games, it's just amazing how creative play callers are, how good they are just getting speedy receivers in open space. It's something, I mean, you know, it's just something that doesn't happen in Piscataway. It hasn't happened a lot. You know, they do have a couple of guys that can run. You got Crushank, you got Youngblood, you got ability there. Just draw me up a play that gets the ball in their hands when you can move. Pat, I mean, am I wrong? What is one thing you want to see?
How about getting the ball downfield? We haven't seen that because we haven't had the quarterback health-wise, but I think if you're putting in Wimsatt, who has the ability to throw the ball downfield, that would be a huge one thing for me. But playing in space, you're absolutely right. Playing in space, quick plays, that's what Aaron Rodgers used to do so well, and guys like that, when you can get the ball out fast, high percentage completions for big chunk plays. So that would be nice. But I think my one thing is get the ball downfield, take some shots, because they haven't done that all season.
Yeah, it's interesting. And again, I watched a lot of college football on Saturday. I did watch Indiana. They're not great. They're not terrible. I watched a little Michigan State. Again, felt the same way. I'm like, okay, not great, but not terrible. I don't know. I mean, Maryland, like obviously losing their quarterback makes a big difference. If that's the case, have we heard he's out for good? I don't know if we've gotten that report yet.
I haven't seen a report, but he was doing an MRI, and the visual did not look very good.
Right, it certainly didn't look good. Those are the three games I think you would put in order, in that order of fact, about winnability. I mean, what did you see from Indiana? Or is this game an evenly matched game? Do you give an edge in either direction for this team?
I think it's winnable. And what Schiano talked about with the playing really fast, I think plays in Rutgers' favor, actually, because the defense has been so good.
Right.
If you're going to run that up tempo stuff, and you're not successful on first or second down, you're behind the chains, I think that really limits Indiana offensively. So I think it's evenly matched and definitely winnable.
Now, Brian, you had 4.5 minutes to talk to Nunzio last week. Is that I'm overdoing it?
You did overdo it. It was about 3 minutes and 45 seconds.
In those 3 minutes and 45 seconds, I kid. What do you think he has to do to win this job? I mean, is it possible? Is there a realistic bar that he has to clear for him to be the guy?
I don't know if there are numbers or anything specific that I'm sure Greg probably does have some metrics he'd like to see. I think that if you see, I'm going to assume Gavin Wimsatt is going to play some. I agree with you, Steve, that it'll be Noah Vedral for a majority of the game. I think they'll mix in Gavin Wimsatt, hopefully let him throw the ball every once in a while, let him risk it a little bit. And I think that if they continue to do that through the end of the year, and you get to, the game against Maryland, and you can trust, Wimsatt with half the snaps, you can trust him to not make mistakes. He's starting to throw the ball downfield, like Pat said. I think that is the biggest indication of what could earn Nunzio the job, is if he can develop the quarterback for the future and give them a guy that you can enter 2023 with, knowing you have a solid option at that position. And, just making the most out of what he has, significantly improving the offense. If he can make this offense that struggles so much under Sean Gleason into something competent, I don't want to see a good offense. I don't need to see a great offense. I need to see something competent. I think that would give him a shot, though I have to think that they will explore all options. I don't think they'll get swept up in Nunzio mania and hire him without looking elsewhere what's available after the season. But I do think he can give himself a really good shot if those two things happen. If Gavin Wimsatt is the guy at the end of the year, and if there is tangible, obvious progress in the offense.
I don't need to see a good offense. That's a good quote for the 2022 Rutgers football yearbook. Okay. All right. Let's dive into true or false, guys. I only have 7 topics, but there's 7 good topics. Here we go. True or false? Noah Vedral will take 82% or more of the snaps against Indiana. Fonseca, true or false?
That's oddly specific. I'll go false, but only slightly less. I'll say 70.
70.
I'll say false because I think Wimsatt is going to be a big player this week.
I'm going to go true. And I would bet good money that he takes at least 82% of the snaps. Should be fun to see if we're right. Okay. True or false? Rutgers will pass for more than 150 yards against Indiana. Didn't look back to see the last time that's happened. Of course, I know what happened. Iowa game. True or false? Fonseca, 150.
They threw for 300 yards against the best defense in the Big Ten, Steve. I'm thinking 500 this weekend.
Whoa.
No, I'm joking. I think they will slightly surpass that number. True.
Okay. Lanny?
True as well.
All right, I'll go true too. All right, true or false? Sam Brown will have 20 or more carries against Indiana. We finally got to see this man get to work. Fonseca, true or false?
False.
Really? Okay. Lanny?
Man, 150 yards passing. We got to play complimentary football, so I'll say true.
Yeah, I'd be stunned. I think that's one of the reasons why Nunzio is now the offensive coordinator. I would say true on that as well. True or false? Rutgers will have more than 32,000 fans for Indiana. Keep on giving you exact numbers here. Fonseca, true or false? 32,000. Homecoming.
Announced 45.
No, announced. I mean,
in the building?
Not announced. Yeah, in the building.
In the building. I'll guess 30. So false.
You go false? All right. Lanny?
True, because the boardwalk is such a hit.
Yes, the boardwalk will get them all there. It's Halloween. Chris Carlin told us today on the pre-press conference show that it's going to be a Halloween theme at the boardwalk. So fun. I'm going to go true as well. All right. True or false? Forget Ohio State. Michigan is still the best team in the Big Ten, beating up on Penn State, not just, physically mauling Penn State in a really good effort. Fonseca, true or false?
Men against boys that game. That game should have been 70-3. Penn State looked like an FCS team. Still, I will say false. I think Ohio State's still the class of the league, but Michigan definitely has a good chance of beating them.
Lanny?
True. Loved that Michigan game. I think they're the most balanced team. And like you said, men against boys up front.
Yeah.
That's Big Ten football.
I'm going true too. We're talking best team. And I get it. Ohio State may be more talented, but man, they are a good football team. All right. And finally, this is a good one. We have to discuss this one in length. Will Rutgers, true or false, Rutgers will one day throw the goalposts into the Raritan River? Fonseca, you tweeted a photo of the goalpost today. And it looked like you were ready to carry them across yourself. True or false? Are they ever going to throw the goalposts into the Raritan?
I almost made the caption 5 retweets and I will do it, but I didn't want Greg to get from his office onto the field and tackle me before I tried. And for context, so Tennessee fans, after they finally beat Alabama for the first time in 16 years, took the goalpost down in Neyland Stadium, walked it outside of the stadium and threw it into the river in one of the coolest celebrations I've ever seen in college football. I will say false because not because Rutgers might never win a game that big, because you never really know in this sport. I don't think it's possible, likely, but it's certainly possible. I think that the Rutgers security will dampen the mood and will not let Rutgers leave the stadium with the goalpost. So I will say false.
All right, Lanny?
I'm going to say, all things given, the same type of win that Tennessee pulled off. I'm going to say true because New Jersey is number 1 in the country in pollution, and a field goal post in the river would certainly add to that reputation.
Great. That's a good answer. Right. With like a couple of ShopRite shopping carts. Man, I can only imagine, I wonder what the things, that'd be a good story, asking the crew team some of the crap they have encountered in the Raritan River over the years. I would read that.
Great.
Some of Tony Soprano's former friends.
Free idea. Yeah, I think it's
that
also
free idea.
I have logistical questions about getting the goalpost out of that stadium too. Obviously, no one can get out of the stadium. So can you imagine trying to get out of the stadium in a timely fashion while carrying, an awkward item like that? That'd be a challenge. I'm not sure you can get to that.
Yeah, and you made a good joke too. It would get stuck in the River Road traffic by the time.
River Road traffic's too easy, right? The material writes itself with this. So you think here, just set this up for you. If they beat Penn State, would that be enough? This year, they said they lost their next couple of games and they beat Penn State. Would that be enough for them to go to rip down the goalposts?
No, I don't think so. I think my view. So Tennessee beat a rival that's number 3 in the country.
Yeah. I
think the bar should be you beat Ohio State at home, no matter what. I don't care if Ohio State's 0-11 before that game. You beat Ohio State at home, similar to when they beat Michigan 2014. You take down the goalposts. if you beat a top 5 Michigan, if you beat a top 5 Penn State, I think that's the barrier to, because anything else, you can't, I just can't justify them doing that. But those 3 wins are what I think. Or if you have, for some reason, some guy in my emails, when we reported on Friday that Rutgers was playing Akron, Ohio, and UMass in the next few years, some guy got in my emails and said, why don't they schedule USC or Alabama or Notre Dame? If that guy somehow gets his wish and those guys show up to SHI Stadium and Rutgers beats them, then you could take down the goalposts. Those are my scenarios.
Gosh, holy cow. Yeah. Okay. Why not schedule those games? Good point. We should talk about that. It's great. We got the MAC back on the schedule, by the way. I forgot to bring that up earlier. Yeah. So that's, what do we got? Akron, Ohio, which is coming to Piscataway next year and in 25, and UMass. UMass is back.
Big recruiter.
Yes. I guess all I can assume is that Wagner was booked. Is that what happened?
Yeah, probably. I think they're a hot ticket now as the FCS punching bag.
Absolutely.
I think they still have the losing streak too.
Right.
Which is probably encroaching a record at some point.
They had to do running clock against Syracuse.
Pat, what do you want to see to take down the goalposts? What would you have to see for them to?
I think you're spot on. I'm curious if they took down the goalposts against Louisville, Pandemonium and Piscataway.
It did not. No, they actually protected the goalposts. I think they had like guards around them. They lowered them and then guarded them, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
All right. Because it was like a big Tennessee was fined $100,000 for this because it is dangerous to storm the field and rip down the goalposts. And,
it was an epic celebration, but I thought the way it took a little bit longer for Tennessee to get onto the field than it took Rutgers that night against Louisville. Like the Rutgers-Louisville one was like instantaneous.
Right.
And the storm for Tennessee just seemed like it took a while for all the fans to get over the wall or whatever it was. But afterwards, the scene was like absolutely, amazing.
Louisville, they stormed the field twice, which was what the best part of it.
Yeah.
The game wasn't over yet. They had the whole run back on. That would have been bad if they had not gotten a hold of that.
Yeah, they had a false start there.
To answer your question though, Brian, you're spot on about it's got to be a top 5 team. It's got to be a top 5 Penn State. Beating Penn State this year is just another win.
I mean, I think it's field stormable. I don't know if it's goalpost and the Riverable, but they beat Penn State this year. You should storm the field.
Totally agree. You storm the field. You don't take down the goalpost. Also,
you have to come up to the press box and throw me in the river. If you beat Penn State this year, how's that for a game? Throw Politi in the river.
That might actually get.
That is awesome. Book it up.
That will guarantee the win. That channel will play this clip on repeat
in the river. There you go. Gladly
down by the riverside.
Go for a dip.
In the river.
Don't play in the river. That's guarantee. I'm available. Beat Penn State this year. I'm going swimming. All right. Good. True or false recap. Fun topics. Let's do some insider questions. As you know, you can sign up for NJ.com/insider. We're going to take a couple questions from our growing Twitter feed. You see that? We got like 212 followers for the Rutgers Rant Twitter feed. Got to catch the other podcast, the the Establishment podcast soon here. The NIL guys have a podcast. And that's what we're going to go with the first question. How confident or not do you feel about Rutgers' ability to retain the young core of this team, especially on defense and WIMSET, heading into next season in the world of NIL? This is a great question. And obviously it was a big topic this week. I talked to, for a column, both the athletic department people doing the NIL, both the collective people doing the NIL. It's not a rosy picture, and it's not because of lack of trying. I think that's the important thing to get out there. While there are certainly some debate about whether or not, both sides are doing enough. One side certainly believes it's trying the best within the rules. That's the athletic department. The collective, meanwhile, wishes it had more support both from the fan base and from the athletic department. It's a tough situation, and there's only $400,000 in the collective right now. That doesn't get you. That doesn't get you a starting linebacker in the SEC, right? It's rough. Yeah.
Good reporting on you to get those numbers and talk to all those people. I am not sure if we're overblowing this or not. I don't know if the entire Rutgers roster will be gutted through NIL. I don't know if we've exactly seen that. We've seen cases, right? Jordan Addison going from Pitt to USC, guys of elite level getting picked off. I don't know if, Rutgers' entire young defense, which has so much potential, so many great young players. I don't think you lose Aaron Lewis, Wesley Bailey, Tyron Powell. But I do think that you leave yourself up to that possibility if you don't prepare yourself, if you don't bankroll yourself And that's going to be a big question for Rutgers to ask. And we'll know the answers in a couple months' time. So, but yes, to your point, it's the current standing does not look great for Rutgers.
Hey, Rutgers Rant listeners, it's Steve Politi from NJ Advanced Media. We appreciate you supporting this podcast and the sponsors who help us continue doing it. This week's podcast is brought to you by the New Brunswick Development Corporation. If you listen to this show, you love Rutgers. And if you love Rutgers, you know the positive impact that DevCo has made on the campus and its community. We thank the New Brunswick Development Corporation for its continued support and for helping make this podcast possible. Now back to the show.
Remember, and it's not just the NIL money, it's just the transfer portal in general, and a culture of athletes who are accustomed to moving. I mean, some of these guys play 2, 3, even 4 high schools, especially in basketball. So Pat, I guess if you look at it that way, it's a broader problem. It's not just a Rutgers problem. It is a player movement error.
It is. And you nailed it, saying it starts at a young age. It starts when they're getting recruited for high school out of 8th grade, right? So I think this is you're 100% right. Transfer portal could really hurt Rutgers, but I see this with a little bit of a rose-colored glasses, that I think this channel really does have great bonds with the kids, and they believe in him, and they believe in him as a leader. So I think more so they want to stay together. They want to be the guys that bring change to Rutgers, and they've kind of bought into his spiel, if you will.
Right. Yeah, and it is interesting. And it's not just, we've kind of painted this into every college athlete is looking for the biggest paycheck. I mean, that's not the case. And I think the basketball team is illustrative of that. I mean, we'll talk about media day in a minute. Brian and I were there. One of the big themes is they kept their entire team together. No one in the transfer portal. And I think that goes to the kind of player that Steve Pikiell identifies and recruits, and B, again, like they're happy here, and you can't discount that. I mean, if you like where you are and you're happy, and someone says, "I'll give you $50,000 to pick up your life and move someplace else," it's not worth it in a lot of cases. So that's something important to remember as well, that it's not just the money thing. And you would hope that for the majority of players, especially if you're only 19, 18, 19, 20 years old, I mean, to start making decisions based on money, you've got your entire life to do that, especially if it's a couple $1 million, I'll hop on the NIL as well.
Yeah. They're also, but to be to play devil's advocate, they're at the height of their earning power now, right? Like, where else in their life, if they're not going to play professional sports, are they going to be offered 6 figures, right? So it is a difficult decition.
And Politi in the River fundraiser might be able to raise some NIL money.
Let's get that on for the Knights of the Raritan. Politi in the Raritan. Start your bidding now. Just not off that bridge. Although there have been many times sitting in traffic that I've wanted to jump off the Route 18 bridge into the Raritan River, but I would prefer a softer landing than that. All right, Nunzio vibe. Lots of questions about what the vibe is. I know there's an embargo on what you can report. What has been the team vibe with Nunzio? Another one, I know the ultra secrecy of Schiano. This won't be known, but I'll ask anyway. I want to know if Wimsatt is healed up to play. We know that now. Let the kid play. And a good one from Peter in Palm City, Florida. At what point does secrecy about the quarterback position that turns off the fan base and outweigh the competitive advantages? I wonder if that's why, again, Greg is always a couple steps ahead. Is that why we know the quarterbacks are healthy? Could that be part of it? Man,
couple steps ahead.
Let's be realistic here. How many extra people are going to show up to the game on Saturday because they know Gavin Wimsatt can play? We're not talking about a substantial number of people here.
I mean, maybe not. No, probably, but it certainly would be more. I mean, if you heard he wasn't going to play, you might be like, I mean,
I'm all for quarterback transparency. I think it's good that he showed. I'm just saying that may be reason number 7 as opposed to number 1.
Right. Good point.
I was just going to say credibility matters in this whole grand scheme of things. Like, you get rid of Gleason, and it seemed like a part of the reason why is because he never figured out who was going to play quarterback. Let's get this thing centered and bring it back to the middle. So the more outgoing he is, the better. So
right.
I think it's not about who's in the seats. It's about just bringing it back to the middle, basically.
No, good point. All right. Here's a good question from our Twitter follower at the Crave 10. What would be better for the program? Going 6-6 with wins over Indiana, Michigan State, and Maryland, or finish 4-8 with a win at home over Michigan or Penn State? I think the correct answer is yes to that one. Either one of those scenarios they would sign up for at this point. What do you think, Brian? If you had to pick one of the two, which one?
I think the Michigan win would get much more attention and would be a more sellable thing to recruits. I think Rutgers would take over the college football world for a day. They'd get right into the news cycle, and it would be great in the big sense. The bowl game is practical in getting those extra 10 practices, being able to work with the young team even more, getting them another game of experience. I would vote for the Michigan game just because it's a splash, right? And you splash. So, but I could see the argument either way. To your point, anything, dude. Rutgers go 5-7 with wins over Indiana and Michigan State, and I think it would be something that people should sign up for immediately.
Yeah, I agree totally. Which one you take, Pat?
I'm taking the 6-6.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm taking the 6-6 because I want to see the development and standing by the 1-0 philosophy that this team is supposed to be better at the end of the year than they are at the beginning. And maybe you just get lucky, and you can't get lucky and beat Michigan, but I think if you win 3 games, you're proving that you're a better team than beating one really good team on a fluke.
Okay. Interesting.
And I think you'll change your mind once we're in Detroit, Michigan on December 26th at the Quick Lane Bowl.
If you're lucky,
Bowling Green.
You're in Detroit if you're
What
lucky.
about the Bahamas Bowl?
Fort Worth on December.
What do we got to do for
11
that?
a.m. Wait till Juliet. When you're telling Juliet, Daddy's got to go to Fort Worth on Christmas Eve. Where's Fort Worth? It's gonna be the first time she looks up.
I take it back. I was thinking the Bahamas Bowl would be a first good one for Pat Lanny and the family, but
right
with that, all right. I said last week that Rutgers was going to be Penn State, so I'm sticking with it. I changed my answer officially.
Silver spoon. You had a whole lifetime to disappoint your daughter. Why not start now? All right. Oops. Segue. A couple of men's basketball questions. We are very close to becoming a basketball podcast. Bunch of questions about basketball. Without getting into specifics, do you think Rutgers has a high ceiling and a low floor this year, or vice versa? Interesting question. I guess the vice versa would be a low ceiling and a high floor. So that means a team that's you're going to get a NIT level with a low. What do you think? I'll let you take that, Brian. Either way you want to answer it.
The experience they have back, the number of guys who have been in the system and know how Pico coaches and what he wants is beneficial to have a high floor. I think this team, I can't see them falling below the top half of the Big Ten. And I think there is a chance that if all goes well, I'm not predicting this will happen, but I do think there is a scenario with the way the Big Ten is, so much flux, so many unknowns, so much things in the air, that if Rutgers has a good season, if Cliff takes a jump, if Caleb plays to his defensive level from last season, if Paul Mulcahy becomes a floor general, Cam Spencer hits shots, Mawot Mag and Dean Reaver take a huge step forward at the 4 spot. If all those things go well, Rutgers can compete for a Big Ten title. Do not aggregate that, people. I do not say Rutgers is going to win the Big Ten title, but Rutgers, with all goes well, can win a Big Ten title. So I would say high floor, moderately high ceiling.
What the hell is aggregating our podcast?
So confusing.
Yeah, I lost you there at aggregation.
Oh,
well, I don't know. People might say Brian Fonseca of the Rutgers, the world famous Rutgers Rant, predicts Rutgers wins the Big Ten.
Yeah, okay. All right. I will say this, and this is a good transition to our segment on men's basketball media day. I did leave Jersey Mike's Arena feeling pretty positive about where things are. And I watched half of a practice. Again, you don't get a lot of that, but you've got an NBA center, the way they're talking about Big Cliff. I mean, I think it's clear he's going to take another step. He was already one of the 10 best big men in the college basketball last year. Takes another step this year. Paul Mulcahy, if he takes another step, you've got a distributor, you've got the best defensive player perhaps in the country. And I guess if you add in this Cam Spencer, again, people cannot talk enough about him. His shooting ability, never misses, work ethic, the whole thing. And I get it. Patriot League ain't the Big Ten. We're going to see if that translates. But that's been the missing link, guys, right? I mean, that's been the thing that they have not been able to have, just a dead aim, consistent 3-point shooter.
Harper was to a little bit of an, but
Oh, consistent?
Well,
that's not the word I would use.
Hit some big shots, but
he don't hit some biggest shots in program history.
All right.
But, someone who can hit consistently, like
his 2 years ago, he was a consistent 3-point shooter as opposed to last year where he fell off a little bit. So you're right. To have a consistent, a JJ Redick type 3-point shooter would be phenomenal. So we'll
Right.
see.
Yeah, Ron was his percentage looked great, but he'd have games where he hit 5 of 7, and then he had games where he hit 1 of 6. So I get your point. While he looked like a great shooter, there was a roller coaster ride.
What were the takeaways did you have other than the fact that Derek Simpson looks like they simply cloned Geo Baker and in some sort of secret New Brunswick laboratory?
The way Pikel talks about his athleticism, it's like a fusion of Geo Baker and Jacob Young. I think he will play some time. I'm intrigued to see what they do at the 4. I think they have 2 good options in Mawat Mag and Dean Reber. So Caleb McConnell didn't practice on Friday because he was dealing with a knee tweak, and Dean Reber was on the floor with Mawat Mag. So it shows the versatility, the trust they have in Dean. I think he could have a chance. He had a huge year last year based on what we expected going into it. I wonder how much of a jump he'll take this year. There's no major takeaways other than they bring back a lot of familiar faces. And if they can all make a jump that Pikel players have shown they can at Rutgers, Rutgers has a chance of having a really good year.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about it. And you have to have faith in their ability to do that. All right, enough basketball. Let's get a prediction here. What's the standings now? Fonseca, you've got the lead. Is that correct?
I think so. Do you want me to pull it up?
No, that's all right. We'll just assume you've got I think you got a 1-game lead. Is that? I think that's where we're standing here after correctly ascertaining that Rutgers would take the points against Nebraska. What's the line of this game? I have no idea. What is it?
It was Rutgers -2, but I haven't checked since Sunday.
We get to roll with that -2, or you want to check really quick?
Let me check really quick.
All right. I want this to be accurate because this is a key. We're getting into the nitty-gritty here, Lenny.
Yeah, I mean,
I fear we're going to lose this.
Brian took the lead on a game that we predicted correctly, and he we said Rutgers was going to lose to Nebraska.
Right. Yeah, we
said
did.
Nebraska was going to, which happened, so it is what it is.
Yeah,
Nitty gritty.
The nitty gritty. Yeah, I'm more bitter about the Ohio State, whatever the line there was, losing that.
That was huge for me. That was huge.
Yeah.
So it's from what I could tell, it's still -2. So let's roll
-2. All right, we're rolling with it. What do you got, Fonseca? You go first. You're leading.
I think it's now or never for Rutgers. I think it's homecoming. There'll be a decent crowd. Wimsatt is back. New offensive coordinator, Juice, and Indiana stinks. I know I say that about a lot of teams. Indiana stinks. So I think Rutgers wins this game 24-17.
Okay, Pat.
Now or never couldn't have been better to put it. I think I'm also going to go with Rutgers wins and covers. I think the defense for Rutgers keeps playing great, and I'm not scared of that Indiana's high tempo offense. I think Rutgers matches up against that really well. So, and I think we're going to see a really good game from Gavin Wimsatt. I know you guys disagree, but I think he's back, and Shano put that out there for a reason. And so I'm going to go.
Shiano put that out for a reason. So Federal plays 90% of the snaps. You're right about that. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
You put it out for a reason because it's time for the Wimsatt bandwagon to get rolling and hitch your trailer to it. Rutgers with Nunzio Campanile puts up 30 points, 30-17. Rutgers.
Ooh, man. Optimistic. I wanted to go against you guys, but I'm gonna have to get my get back in the standings on another week. I really do think Rutgers is going to win this game. I've been giving this thought. I watched Indiana. Don't think they're great, and I think the Rutgers defense is gonna nail this one down. And then Noah Vedral will be the storyline, unlike what my co-podcasters think. I'm gonna go with 27-13, decisive victory for the Scarlet Knights. All right, other thoughts? Women's soccer, did a little research. 13-1-2. Megan McClellan, 43rd shutout. It's a lot of shutouts, isn't it? It's like two full seasons of shutouts. Good grief. What do we got? Anything else going on?
Megan McClellan, NCAA's all-time leader in minutes played.
Is that right?
The most active player in the history of women's soccer in college. Is from Soccertown, USA, baby.
Does the goalies get a day off, or she's just played every game?
She's played every game of her career, and she had the COVID year, so she played 5 years.
Gotcha.
But that does not change the fact that Carney is number one somewhere on that record book.
Okay.
And this is unrelated, but this cursing has started at SHI Stadium already. I was walking down to get cross back to my car. I was going down the stairs. I had a meatball sandwich that the Rutgers communication staff kindly gets for us every Monday before every press conference from Mancini's. Mm-hmm. And I dropped my sandwich on the steps of SHI Stadium, and I said many naughty words that people will be saying throughout Saturday.
You dropped your sandwich.
I dropped
sandwich
my sandwich.
is the program. Come on, man.
The sandwich is the
You can't
program.
You can't fumble the sandwich.
Pause the program.
You can't win turning the ball over, and you can't kill your hunger when you drop your meatball sandwich. So it was, I mean, just the most devastating thing you'll see in that stadium all season. And I'm crushed.
Did you guys see the field hockey versus Maryland ending?
I did not.
I must say I did not. Tell us all about it.
All right. So it was unbelievable. It was classic Rutgers. In classic Rutgers fashion, they scored 2 goals to tie the game against number 2 Maryland in the final 5 minutes. And then with 35 seconds to play, Maryland gets the game-winning goal to win 4-3.
Oh.
The Rutgers came within 45 seconds of this miraculous comeback against the number 2 team in the country. Fell just short.
To give Maryland the Big Ten championship too, huh? Man.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
They got a share of the title.
Yeah. Brutal. All right. Well, that's it. Let's sign off for the week. We'll be back after the big Indiana game to recap it. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Devco. Thanks to everybody else. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Rutgers Rant. To participate in the conversation and receive live updates about the Scarlet Knights directly to your phone, sign up at NJ.com/insider.
You haven't heard enough from me yet, huh? Steve Politi here for one last thank you to this episode's sponsor, New Brunswick Development Corporation, and to listeners like you who make it all the way to the end of the show. We'll see you again soon.